And when defending,
I think it's like
Are we live? Of course we're live. People, Deluded, I'm back again. By now you already know who I'm with. We've done this enough times. It's me and Mo. Mo and DG is quite a good formidable partnership. If only our midfield was as sorted as that. How you doing, broski? Happy New Year.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Just looking forward to getting back to winning ways, hopefully tomorrow. You know, when after a defeat like the one we just had in the FA Cup, I'm always looking forward to the next game, itching to get there. So tough couple of fixtures, the last two fixtures for Arsenal fans, but hasn't dampened the belief. I don't know about you.
Yeah, just like you said, man, it hasn't dampened the belief. We've taken a bit of bumps and bruises on the road. You know, I'm happy you said that because I don't think I've asked you about how you feel the City game went or the Forest game. Now, we lost two different comps, but we lost. City, all right, it is what it is. Nottingham Forest, it was atrocious. We might as well kick off there. Just before the Nottingham Forest game, you know, what was your feelings with the City game? Because fundamentally we lost, but there was some positives, I guess.
You know, I think my feelings changed as I got further away from the game. I was very caught up in the emotion of the game. And for me, the focus was all about referees, you know, in the aftermath of the game. And it was sort of rightly so. But then as we got further away from the game, I started to look more at what was in our control and think less about the referees. Because people that have been listening to me for many years know that I very, very rarely talk about referees. I've got to be flipping awful for me to talk about them. Because the way I see it, if you've got enough quality, you minimize their importance and their impact on the game. When you're lacking quality, they have much more say over the result because your quality is less say. So I always try and put the onus on Arsenal or any football team and their quality. But I do think the officiating in that Man City game was so poor. It really did frustrate me. But then, as I say, as I got further away from the game and I kind of digested how awful they were, and that still remains, I felt like Granit Xhaka, Gabriel, Martinelli's chance, you know, we really did let ourselves down. There was like 6 minutes of self-destruction between, you know, I think it was giving away the penalty and then Martinelli missing and then Gabriel getting the second yellow. And I felt like, boy, that game was really there for us to get something out of. And we have to learn some lessons. You obviously can't learn lessons about Stuart Atwell. You've got no control over that. But you can learn lessons about yourself. So, yeah, I mean, we can probably get into those things, you know, whether we feel like Xhaka was to blame for the penalty.
Yeah, don't hold back, man. Do you feel he's to blame for the penalty? We've got to talk about these moments, Mo. Do you blame him for the penalty?
I do. I think he's a very, very clumsy tackler. I've always said with Granit Xhaka that there are good elements to his game and he could go and play in a league or like we saw in the Euros. He played brilliantly. And if I watched him in the Euros, I would have been saying, get that guy. You know, get that guy. He looked brilliant. But in the Premier League, with the pace and the physicality, I feel like his on-the-ball side of things is good. It's fine. But off the ball is severely lacking. He's not a clean tackler of the ball. And I don't feel like he knows how to polish the way he tackles based on where he is on the pitch. So it was a clumsy challenge. He's put the leg across, which is already problematic in the first place. He's then sort of allowed that contact. He hasn't pulled his leg away. And then he's pulled the shirt. At one point, he's waving away the appeal whilst with the other hand holding onto the shirt. And you think to yourself, like, all of this stuff that's going on in that one moment is just an indication that this is not your strength. Your strength is when you get the ball, you've got space to receive it, you get your head up and you can ping it with your left foot. That's your strength, you know? Your strength is almost like your unshakable belief in yourself, your ability to bounce back. He's got a lot of good things about him, don't get me wrong. But I feel like we've been let down too many times. And in the away game, again, red card. In this game, again, giving away a penalty, two against Man City. And I feel like Man City are that team that if you have got a weakness like that, boy, they're the ones to exploit it. And it was exploited. So we can move on to the Martinelli chance and the Gabriel red card. But how do you see the Xhaka penalty incident?
I'm with you, broski. On one hand, I know the two aren't the same. I don't understand how Odegaard's one isn't given. I do think to a slight degree, as guilty as Xhaka is, his I think it's a mixture of his mentality, not his mentality, how he's seen by the refs. The fact that, like you said, he's got a hand on him. He does look guilty, and Xhaka's always going to be there. Bernardo Silva's looking for it, but that's what I want my players to do. That's the dark arts. You see a chance, you're selling something. Xhaka bought it. It's a penalty. Like you said, he's got his hands on his shirt, and we see Xhaka do that outside the box. That is a free kick. It's like muscle memory. He's got a hold on the shirt. He sold it. I do think it's a harsh one because, like you said, whether it's a penalty or not, for me, it's a 30-second to a minute flashpoint across the whole 90 minutes. And, I watched the game twice. First time around, I'm proud of us. I think we did well. I think we played City at the right time. They were struggling fitness-wise. The last goal disappointed me watching it again, bro, because for me, as good as it was, we were committed being down to 10 men and whatnot. I think you saw why City win the league. They had that hunger. If you look at the build-up to it, I believe it's Laporte versus Ben White, and it's Rob Holding actually next to Rodri. Now, Rodri's done a number on Holding. Holding is switched off. Ben White's lost his bat when the follow-up goes in. I do think we could have avoided that. I know we're down to 10 men and we're tired, but anytime Kevin De Bruyne can look up and find runners, you're in problems, and that's where we're at. In relation to the other decisions, I think it's harsh to give him one of the yellows, but again, it's one of them where I love Gabriel, but he's let the passion get on top of him. He's got a bit too excited. He's made it in it. It is what it is. How do you feel about it? I think his is stonewalled. I did think, though, looking back, I do think fans were quite harsh to Xhaka. Now, I always say this to you, and you say the same. I don't advocate this guy isn't getting blamed, so let's go and throw some blame on him. But I do think if the narratives were different and Xhaka got sent off and Gabriel gave the pen away, it would be a lot different. I feel they both played a part, but I actually feel with 11 versus 11 in that 90 minutes, I think at 11 men, we might get something. So I actually feel Gabriel's harmed us a bit more, but fundamentally, it's silliness what we did, man.
Yeah, and I have to admit, with Gabriel, I think it is a red card. The referee could have had a word with him for sure, but the first yellow, it's still slightly unclear to me. Some people are saying that he just went up to the referee and said something that was not out of the ordinary, wasn't abusive or anything like that.
I didn't get that either.
So to get a yellow for that is a joke. If you got the yellow for scuffing the penalty spot, fair enough. The second one, if that's against Arsenal, I'm saying that should be a red card. So I have to admit, when it's one of our players, that is definitely in that red card territory. If you get away with it, I'll say you're lucky. So on balance, it is what it is. But this is why you can't, in a way, ignore the refs totally, because that was a slightly subjective call. Yes, you'd be lucky to get away with it, but I don't think it was a case of the referee wouldn't have been getting loads of criticism had he not sent him off. But then on VAR, the Odegaard penalty, you kind of think to yourself, they're separate incidents. We can still not get that Odegaard penalty. It doesn't mean we need to give away the one that Xhaka gave away, right? So you do need to separate them. They're not linked, but what should link them is consistent treatment, and that's not what we got, and that's obviously very frustrating. And then we're talking about refereeing decisions, penalties and red cards, and then the other one was Martinelli's miss. And on that, this is open play. This should have no referee impact whatsoever, yet the referee still plays a part in that.
Facts. Good defending.
The referee was even telling giving the ball boy a talking to hurry up. I mean, when do referees do that? It just
he lost it, man. He lost it. Lost it. And again, for me, in general, broski, I feel if a manager messes up, I either get sacked, or if he does well, he gets praised. If players do well, they get appropriate. Even us content creators, if we're saying silly stuff, then we get the book thrown at us. I'm not saying, every week people are going to talk about referees, and I do think Arsenal fans go over the top, but I just find it very weird that the referee, and it's illegal to critique them, and it's not fair. Again, they're humans. If they decide that Xhaka is a loose cannon, that unconscious bias is going to play a part in their decision. Yeah. You literally get banned for saying that about refs. So I don't get it. For me, it sounds harsh, but I just want Arsenal to get on with it, because we know refs are against us. Anyone that's played Sunday League, play on. And I feel regardless of that ref, we should have done a lot more against City. Yeah. And it is what it is, really.
If we do talk about the positives, let's take the result out and the refereeing performance out. We restricted Man City to 2 shots on target.
And it was a dream for a minute.
Brilliant performance. And not only that, when generally teams manage to restrict Man City, it's because they basically have zero ambition of posing any attacking threat themselves. But Arsenal were able to have a lot of attacking threat, significant attacking threat, and limit them. So that to me just displays that the plan worked perfectly. And we were a proper team out there. Even when we went down to 10 men, we didn't all of a sudden just panic.
Committed
I know it got to our head, in that moment, and that's why we went down to 10 men. But after that, I thought the response was really good as well. So certainly a lot of positives. But then, when you lose a game like City, especially in the way that we lost it, you want a bounce back.
Immediate, yeah.
And then we got Nottingham Forest, which was the complete opposite. I'm talking about having attacking threat whilst limiting City to 2 shots on target. And then we go and play Forest. And I know it's a different team.
We limited
0
ourselves,
shots on
mate.
target against a championship side.
Well, yeah, let's get on to that. I mean, my opinions, it was terrible. Yeah, there was a shorthand, corona, injuries, all of these things played a part, but it's FA Cup. The minimum is turning up, and I just feel, well, it's not even I feel, we just didn't turn up. We didn't win our battles. We were just terrible all over the place, compounded in a bunch of things. And I think, I don't know what to think, really. It was just terrible. It was just terrible. What's your thoughts on that game? Everything was just terrible for me.
I was really annoyed by it, to be honest with you, bro. I was really, really annoyed. And I feel what I find interesting is that look at last year, Southampton, FA Cup, Arteta picks a really weakened side. We go out. He showed a disrespect to the competition, didn't prioritize it. This year, he has picked a team where there's not much more he could have done, really. There's some slight things.
Maybe Lacazette up front for Eddie, that's about it.
Yeah, or maybe even someone like Callum Chambers instead of Patino because of the fact that it's an away FA Cup tie against a physical championship side.
Well, Odegaard there, really.
Yeah, I was happy Patino was in there because I'm excited to see him play. But I think in hindsight, probably the wrong decision. But in any case, the lineup and the team selection is one thing. The other thing is what sort of desire and energy does a manager transmit to his players? And against Man City, I think we clearly saw what that team was all about that day and how desperate they were to win. I didn't see that desperation. Not from kickoff, not after 35 minutes when the manager made an example of a player, not after half-time when he had the ability to get into them, not when our current club captain came on in Lacazette towards the end of the game. And then right at the end of the game, the 5th example of how desperate are we to win is...
I know it's again.
There you go.
Mr. Kalashnikov,
for Cedric, rather than, Mika Beerith, who a youngster that I know you
Mari, just throw someone on. That's got a chance. Yeah, that's exactly, what Wenger would have done. What did you make of that, man? Because I know there's Arsenal conspiracy theorists. They're saying, listen, he's trying to tell the board and those above that he needs players. I don't personally buy that one in particular. I just feel I'm a man out of options for that game. I don't know what I'm doing in that game. Where was you at with the Kalashnikov one?
I don't know. Maybe if it was not a transfer window, he wouldn't have played. Maybe it was just a case of, look, he's fit. If he goes and does something, then maybe some suitor comes to the door. I don't know. It was a really bizarre one. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how that increases your chances of winning the game. But, I guess my question is, given those 5 examples where I'm kind of saying that I'm not seeing any evidence that Arteta's desperate to win this trophy, what I find ironic is that it was this trophy that basically got him through the hard times, that got him a lot of credit in the bank. So what do you reckon? Do you think he takes it seriously, or do you think we can't read into the last 2 seasons of how we've exited?
I definitely agree with you. Last season, I think, Arteta was, he's still showing, but he showed last year a man that's still trying to get his bearings and deal with multiple competitions. I do think he disrespected it. Cedric left back with Martinelli, who wasn't getting a look. We didn't take it seriously. I have a bit more sympathy for him in this game, because what I would say is, one thing I'll give Arteta, he's definitely don't want to lose in a game like that. He definitely wouldn't want you to go out the first round of asking. I do think I haven't got sympathy for the lack of midfield options, because we knew this could be a thing in the summer, but isolated to that game, there was a bunch of injuries. So I do think he set the team up, given instead of, the only problems I would have, Odegaard. I think Patino should have played in the 10 or the 3 role where he could be guided through the game. I didn't understand Eddie Nketiah's inclusion. I think that was more putting his personal stuff ahead of the team, because I feel we didn't play against Spurs on Thursday. We could have played with Lacazette. I don't think Eddie could do much. I think Eddie got a bad rep on that game. Fans were a bit onto him, but he did have chances. So I didn't get it. Mainly the Odegaard and Eddie up front, beyond the obvious. Where are you at with the Tavares thing as well? Because I wanted it to happen, because Do I think Tavares was done a bit dirty? Of course it was harsh, but I just think fans done a lot. I feel you clearly, I don't know if he was convinced in starting you because of the how quickly he did it, but mentally you weren't there. And, you know, before I went on my live stream, I said, you know what, a couple of these players, you know, him and Lokonga, I like them, but I don't really trust them away from home. I still think they're dealing with the cultural effects of this country. And I think Tavares shown that. But where are you at with that sub? Because I feel Tierney showed in 2 minutes what we was lacking in that game, really, even though he didn't do much.
But, you know, with that sub, right, I think I see it different to most people, because anyone that's played 11 aside and you are managed by someone, you actually have a manager, you know, it's not just mates picking the teams. You don't want to be humiliated like that by your manager. You know, you're playing in front of your 10 other teammates and subs or whatever, and it's a bit humiliating for that to happen. Now, I would have dealt with it differently. And some people mistake this as soft, to say that I would have dealt with it differently. I don't think it's soft. I think having a conversation, like, you know, I almost think it's an easy way out to kind of be like, let's say, for example, I say to you tomorrow, I'm never doing this, I'm never doing a podcast with you again. And I just say, like, I'm done. That it's easy to send that I'm done sort of ruthless message than it is to look you in the eye and say, look, these are my problems with the way we're doing things. This is what I want to see from you. These are the changes that I want. That's actually the difficult conversation to have. As a manager, I think that is what management is about, to make people feel respected and appreciated, whilst also not compromising your beliefs in terms of what's best for the footballing
What
side.
you're trying to do,
right?
yeah.
So I would have said to Tavares, or firstly I would have said to Martinelli, look, go down injured for a minute, fake injury, I need to have a word with Tavares. And I just would have said to Tavares, look, I've seen numerous occasions you're giving the ball away. This is what you're doing wrong today. The next 5 minutes, this is what I want to see. If you don't do it, I'm going to bring you off. Okay? Now, that then arms him with the knowledge, at least, of what's going to happen, and he can then make a difference. It's not the same as when a manager's just shouting at a player from the sidelines. You don't get to put your arm around that shoulder and kind of say, look, this is what you're doing wrong. This is what I want to see. And I would have given him the opportunity to say, I would have given him the opportunity as well, even if he didn't want to do that, to say, look, I'm going to have to bring you off because you're having an awful game. I want you to go down injured so we can
save a bit of face.
Situation. Yeah, and save face for you. Because I don't want to humiliate you. So this is what I want you to do for me. Then it's up to the player whether he takes that sort of exit strategy or not. But what Arteta did, I think, isn't good for his confidence. And I don't think it takes into account that FA Cup football is very different. Yeah. And this is Tavares' he's very inexperienced in English football, never mind FA Cup football.
Professional football, because he doesn't have he hasn't played the most amount of games for Benfica. He's probably got closer to our first team than theirs historically. Still inexperienced.
Yeah, so we're saying that he's not an experienced professional footballer. He's got very minimal experience in English football, and he had 0 minutes of FA Cup football, especially against lower league opposition, especially away from home.
Shock, man.
There's a lot of factors there where I'd say, actually, you should have dealt with that with more tact. Now, a lot of people say, if you can't stand up to that level of pressure from Arteta, we don't want you anyway. And it's like, okay, fine. These are people that online, they want to be tough as nails. But I wonder how they would feel if that was them suffering that treatment, or, you know, if that was their son who was a footballer or something, or their daughter who was a footballer suffering that treatment. I just think there's better ways to go about it. So footballing wise, right decision, he needed to come off. How you do that is what's in question here. And what my worry is here is about the longevity that Mikel Arteta will have with this team. Because if you annoy enough people, there'll be a mutiny against you.
Everyone, yeah.
Yeah, people don't play for you. So how did you see it, bro?
I mean, I see it a bit differently from you. I agree with everything you said, and there's definitely many ways to stroke a cat, but I just feel there needs to be an element of ruthlessness. And I personally feel with Tavares, away from home, you've been a bit shocking. Like, you know, against United, there was defo another one on the road. There's been warning signs, and I think there was a time we lost and Arteta kept the same lineup and he retained faith in Tavares. So I've seen times of what you want to do. For me, I would say with Arteta, I don't think you was convinced in Tavares starting because you subbed him very early. I like that whole romance because I don't feel sometimes our young players learn the lessons. I do feel sometimes when you've been subbed that early and it's embarrassing, when you've made a mistake that's directly led to goal in Lokonga's case a few times. No one needs to tell you what you've done wrong. I feel sometimes when we win, I've seen these glaring errors and we've got away with it. I do think there needs to be a bit of a ruthless thing. I liked the fact that Tavares was angry. Obviously, people are going to get excited, but I did like the fact he's angry. I'd rather he cares. I do want his pride to be shot, to be hurt. But I genuinely think when he gets away from all of that, you know, he will think about, it's not about you, it's about the team. Was you doing what you were supposed to? Did you give, in that incident, did you give the team anything to help us win? You didn't do that. So I think it's a good look, in my opinion. Where I'm a bit different is because I don't know if you're going to do that if that was Tierney or if that is somebody a bit stronger in the team. You know, obviously a goalkeeper is not the best example, but would you take Ramsdale? I think Tavares is an easy one to do things like that with. But I just feel it's needed, man. Would you say?
Do you reckon he would have done it to Patino? And if he did it to Patino, what would you have said?
I would have, do you know what? If he'd done it to Patino, I would have thought, on one hand, young Charlie's confidence would have been shot. It would have annoyed me a bit. But in the grand scheme of things, I would have thought it was needed because we're struggling out there. Now, for Charlie, as you know, being out of his comfort zone in a game like that, you see what real football's like. It's not always going to be nice, little pretty football at the Emirates. So, yeah, man, I think it would have shot his confidence. But I think Charlie might have sat there and realised, you know, I'm 18. I'm out of my depth a bit. It is what it is. Where, you know, where I can see where people are going wrong, because people could sit there and say, well, what about Holding in that game? Cedric Suarez, he was poor in the first half. He managed to get even worse in the second. And I think above everything, that game highlighted that obviously the priority needed to be at the start of the season, finding a proper 11, finding a consistent 11. But football is a squad game. This is why when fans were saying, don't sign Odegaard, we've got Smith Rowe, and don't do this because we've got that. You can see in games like this, our depth isn't good enough. Of course, we've been dealt a shorthand. There's hella injuries and all of these things, but it's just not good enough, really, on the best of days. And for me, I think it's shown how ugly it can get if you do not bring in a midfielder. Or, you know, I want our players that are off at AFCON to go as far as they get, but a bit of a cynic in me wants El Nene and Partey to return home sooner than later because, you know, things could be wrapped up this week, in my opinion, man. It's scary.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I think that the conversation about Tavares and the management style and everything is an interesting one. I personally feel as though there would have been widespread condemnation of Arteta if he did that to Patino. Patino's more just visibly looks more like a youngster. And, you know, is slightly younger and has come through our Highland Academy. And I kind of feel like he'd get more protection than Tavares. And I almost kind of feel like it's a bit of a shame. I think if I was, you know, Tavares, I'd be thinking like, right, okay, you know, as in I don't get any allowances. You know, and I personally, given his lack of experience, I think he should be allowed a couple more allowances. But, you know, it is the way it is. I just hope he responds well. I hope it doesn't affect his confidence. And yeah, we see him, who knows, maybe even tomorrow.
Let me play devil's advocate. All right, cool. Let's just say Tavares wasn't subbed, yeah, you know, and he made a mistake and it led to a goal. And Arteta came out. I don't know why he would come out and say this, but he came out and said, I was thinking about subbing him. I kept him on. What would we be saying?
I'd be saying, you should have done it earlier. But that's why I'm not saying he shouldn't have subbed him. I'm saying sub him even in the 35th minute.
Save his face.
But save his face. As soon as you realise that I'm going to need to sub him, because you've obviously gone and told Tierney to get ready, at that point you should be saying to him, you've got 5 minutes.
You know what?
If you give the ball away in those 5 minutes, you're gone.
It's funny you said that because that was my first thing. I thought, all right, cool. Maybe he's been carrying something. I know there's illness in the camp. I'm not going to say he's got the C-bomb, but maybe he's suffering. It is that kind of the year. And he, you know, for me, Tavares, I was looking at him to provide an outlet on the left flank. So when he's not really attacking, I would have thought maybe there's something against him. So you're right on that. Maybe that's something Arteta needs to learn. Just play the game a bit more, be a bit street smart, keep things a bit in-house. And I feel maybe he should do that because I feel realistically our fans like to make stories out of nothing, especially when it's a delicate situation like Arteta. They're ready to hit you over the head with any stick and say that you've got poor man management and game management and all of these sort of things. I meant to ask you, moving away from the Forest game, obviously, you know, big week today. This week, you know, starting tomorrow, better yet. Yeah. We've got Liverpool in the Cup. We've got a 6-pointer against Spurs. Generally, where's your feelings at this week? And then how are you looking at tomorrow?
I really am curious as to what team Liverpool will put out tomorrow.
Sure.
Are they going to go strong or not? But you know what? I almost feel like that Man City game, yeah? We spoke about that earlier. And we said actually we saw really, really positive signs out of that, even in spite of defeat. I think what we'll see now against Liverpool over 2 legs, if they put a strong team out, is that now the new Arsenal in terms of how we fare in big games? Because off the back of 2 disappointing games, City and Forest. We now have a cup game where it's our only chance of a trophy. So I don't think there'll be any sort of lack of desire. We'll want it. We'll put a strong team out.
Cannot be.
So there'll be no excuses here. We need to go and perform here. So I think we'll get through. I think we'll get through to the final. That's just how I feel over 2 legs.
Please. I need this.
Because
I need to.
a big thing is obviously who Liverpool have got missing. So that's a very, very big thing for me. Clearly, Arsenal got people missing as well, but I think we'll do it. I don't know about you. How do you feel?
Do you know what? For me, it's one of them. It's going to sound cliche. The first 5 or 10 minutes now, obviously for me, Mane or Salah, without them two, Minamino will turn into R9. They've got Jota, they've got Firmino who likes to disrespect us. They've got quality. Liverpool fans will always make a big song and dance about the Anfield atmosphere. So first thing is, I want any player who plays, and like you said, I assume it's probably our strongest team, closest to what played against them in the league. Remember how it felt, because you was in that game for a second, and then when Klopp turned on the pressure and the fans got onto you, it got nervy. Kind of the same logic with Source with Nottingham Forest, because we kind of struggle away from home. So again, the crowd is going to be key. You don't need to arrest your own mistakes. If you make a mistake, just carry on. There's going to be times you're under the caution. For me, this is, I know a lot of people say there's not time for rest and things like that, but these players, I need to see a performance, because the game's only going to get worse. If you return to Champions League, you've got to play on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Saturday. Us in the Europa League last year or the year before, we had to play on Thursday and then Sunday. So I don't think there's any excuses. I do want to go as potentially strong as we could. Admittedly, if I had to pick one game to win, I know it's going to sound bad saying this because it's the semi-finals and whatnot, but I just think you take 3 points off Spurs, you could try and eliminate them out of this top 4 race. So I need a performance today, man. I think Liverpool and Arsenal probably have better priorities, and I'm pretty sure both managers would love if this was over one leg. But yeah, I just want to, like one of the comments said, it's just about the performance. If it's a similar thing to the City game, then I can microscope what we could have done better, but everybody stood up to be counted. I don't want us to just, get scared when we hear the atmosphere or over-respect their players or be in it for 45 and then the second half we crumble. And half the things, I kind of want a perfect performance over 90 against Liverpool, if I'm honest with you, regardless of who's out there. I think you're on mute, broski.
Sorry about that.
No,
do you think we'll do it? Do you think we'll get to the final? Or do you think it'll be Liverpool?
I mean, I'm gonna be passionate and be Arsenal. I think it's our time to get to that final. But honestly, I don't know, man. It's the second leg that scares me, and I have to see how Arteta manages this squad, because we're down to our bare bones. We've got 3 games. It's probably naive to think the whole of the same side is going to play 3 times. And this is where I kind of wanted to ask you a bit earlier. When you look at our centre mid situation, now obviously I'm sure Mikel Arteta wouldn't have started Patino and Lokonga if he could. But do you have much sympathy? Because for me, I don't. When it comes to specifically central midfield, I don't, because we knew about this in the summer. We've been known about it.
It's not that we found out 2 days before that AFCON's going to happen. So
this is it.
It's really annoying. It's really annoying.
It's jarring, mate.
It's cost us a really important FA Cup campaign. And now I hope it doesn't cost us a League Cup. I mean, obviously, League Cup is not a major trophy. But the fact of the matter is, when you're in the semi-finals, of course you want to win it.
It's so close. You can kiss it. You might as well go through.
I'd rather have lost in the flipping first round that we were in the League Cup than at this stage, and still win the FA Cup. I'd rather it was switched in a way. But we need to go and get these midfield reinforcements. But what I would say is that, look, tomorrow, if Smith Rowe and Xhaka are back, then all of a sudden that becomes a very respectable midfield with Ødegaard, Lokonga, both all available as well. So those 4, and however you want to do it, Saka, Martinelli, Lacazette, all of a sudden you're looking at that team thinking that's a really good team again. So it all depends on those injuries. But if Smith Rowe and Xhaka aren't available, then yeah, you're like, damn, we're so light again. And that's where that conversation might need to come in about Callum Chambers potentially stepping into defensive midfield, or even Ben White maybe being pushed up a little bit.
I'll do the Ben White thing.
Back into defense. There's ways of going about it, but it's going to be tough. There was rumors Collagen actually in our last game could have played central midfield. So I'm with you, man. If it needed to be, what would would you go Chambers or White in midfield now that you said it? Because a part of me was saying Chambers. Then you said White. I thought, you know what, Ben White, we might get some progressive passes, slap Chambers in defense, just get away with it. But then again, Chambers and Holding against Liverpool, we've been there before. So I would leave White in defense. I would leave Ben White in defense, and I would because also what Ben White does really, really well is he carries the ball out of defence.
Yeah.
And generally as a central defender, you have the space to do that in front of you. Liverpool, obviously brilliant pressers, but in the middle of the park, I'm not sure Ben White would have as much space to do that. I think he I'd rather let him play his natural game, because I think that's a really, really good out. It's very underrated in terms of how Arsenal beat the press. And I think it's one of the key reasons we signed Ben White, because you see so often when players do that two-touch passing, angles get chopped up and eventually they have to go long. And if you have one player who has the confidence to say, I'm going to just fake the pass and go with the ball, it totally demolishes the
another
press.
dimension.
Yeah, totally demolishes the press. So he does that really well. And we need that against Liverpool, who are maybe the best pressers in the league. You know, they're very, very good at that. So, yeah, that's what I'd do.
And that's the thing. That's why I kind of look at our midfield, because even on the best of days, I see Ben White and Gabriel having to, in my opinion, overcompensate, because consistently there's not that midfielder who can turn and bring the other people into play. That's why you see them get frustrated and they try Hollywood passes. And I think that was actually highlighted against Nottingham Forest with our centre halves beyond the obvious. And I feel that's where a midfielder that can turn, I'm not saying Jorginho's the best example, but someone who wants the ball and who can turn, that's going to stop us getting to the next level, in my opinion, really and truly. And we don't look like we have any plans to mitigate against that, apart from probably Odegaard or Smith Rowe dropping into that 8 now. I'd rather Martin Odegaard do it. What would your lineup be, assuming, you know, people who we hear has a touch of being fit plays? We know we're going to be without a number of others, but we hear Xhaka, Smith Rowe, Tomiyasu, they have a chance. I don't know if Arteta's playing coy on things, but if I hear they've got a chance, then they start for me if they're about.
Look, for me, we all know what the lineup is on league games, yeah?
Yeah.
And the only deviation from that with AFCON is Partey. So every man who's fit, you know, for a normal league game will be playing in this game. The one that we know isn't available is Partey with AFCON. So he's out, and I put Odegaard into that position and Smith Rowe further up, because Smith Rowe is that almost like the only guy where he's just on the cusp of that very set 11. Now, Tomiyasu, if he's not going to be available, then on the right.
This is the thing, man. It's either you pull out Ben White, and we haven't, you know, technically I think Gabriel might be back, but you pull out Ben White or you go with Chambers. I don't personally want to see Cedric, although if you play and you play well, I'll be the first to praise you. I just think he leaves too much space.
It would be Chambers for me, because I feel like Chambers is more similar than Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu, in this inverted sort of system that we play, aerially very, very strong. And he doesn't carry the ball forward, he passes the ball forward generally. Tierney's the one that bombs forward. So even though Tomiyasu does get forward, I'm not going to feed into this myth that he doesn't offer any attacking threat. He does, but that's our system. He's doing a job in a system where he's not asked to do that as much as the left-hand side. But I think Chambers is a better replacement for what Tomiyasu is currently doing. So that's how I would do it personally.
And he was technically our first. I know it's not, you know, there wasn't too many to choose from, but, you know, he was technically our first choice right back once upon a time. We might as well, I know the club allegedly have made him available for transfer, but we might as well utilize some half decent players while we can. Again, like I said earlier, I just think it really highlights the lack of depth. And I think it highlights, even if you are in theory only really focusing on the league in the season because we finished 8th, you still need depth. You still need players. You still need to be able to compete. So where are you at with the Spurs game? Obviously, Liverpool's tomorrow, we can't jump too ahead, but beyond the obvious, obviously it's a North London derby. It's in a degree the same team that we saw when we played them against Nuno, but in the other hand, it's completely a different team. So where are you at with Spurs, man?
This Spurs game is, I feel like you cannot underestimate the importance, the magnitude of this game.
Facts.
This game, for me, determines who the favourite is for that 4th spot. This game, for me, is so crucial because the team that gets that 4th spot this year, they can then go on and try and make sure that they add that quality and
cement that,
really push on to that next level. And, you know, the team that doesn't, it's much harder, much harder to go and add all of that quality that you need. We've seen how threadbare our squad is. If we are going to be in Europe next season, which it looks like with our current squad, we're going to unravel. We need to make sure
we're going to have a terrible time.
Yeah, we need to make sure that we can really strengthen. And Tottenham as well, they know that they're going to have to do a big job. There's never a guarantee that Harry Kane's going to stick around there because, he's had a nothing career, poor bloke. He really has had a nothing career. For a guy of his talent, do you know what I mean? Like if we're not trying to take the mick because he's Tottenham, honestly, for a guy of his talent, unless he just comes out like Alan Shearer and says, I'm doing this out of love, like when he chose Newcastle over Man United, for example. If you come out and say that, then fine, we can respect that. But honestly, man, like you've shown that slight ambition to go and win trophies, to go elsewhere, and you haven't done it. I feel sorry for him. He's trapped. So if Tottenham don't finish in the top 4, I can see him going. And then you look
and they got no Son as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then you look at what that could do for their trajectory. It's a massive, massive game. It has implications much greater than just that afternoon or this season. And when you look at the league table as well, they're 2 games behind us, 2 points behind us.
And they got games in hand. Facts, boy.
So if they win, they are 1 point ahead with 2 games in hand. That's a brilliant situation. Because going back a few weeks, we were always talking about would you rather have points on the board or games in hand. The right answer is both.
Now it's looking extremely different, and you're right. And for me, I can't tell you the last time, and this used to, in my 26 years, this used to be a given. I can't remember the last time we went to White Hart Lane and we won, really and truly. The closest we got is where Lacazette scored that banger and then they turned it around. And I hope our players, in the next 2 games, I can't lie, I don't think I'm being a bit harsh on our players, but it just felt against Nottingham Forest that we could just turn up because we've been doing all right. We did all right against City and we'll win. You do that against Conte, you're in problems, especially the amount of times we let, fair enough, it's not the same team, but we let Nottingham Forest, we were so open, they were on the counter-attack numerous times. You do that against Spurs, there's a problem. I know they're missing Son, but when we played Brighton were missing several players. When we played Palace, they were missing Zaha. You wouldn't have known that. So I don't really want us to read too much into it. As you said, they've got Kane, and he does like to hit the deck. We do get penalties given against us. So I just want to see us stand up to be counted, man. And you look at, you're probably the best person to have here when you consider looking at all our fixtures. Fair enough, the fixtures, we're getting towards the end of the blockbuster games, but there's still some tricky games and some tricky teams in positions, and we've still got to go through these dangerous parts of dangerous places this season. So I don't feel nothing's set in stone for us.
And look, it's weird because right now I still say the mood with Arsenal and Arsenal fans and Arteta is positive, right? But when you look at the fixtures and you just look at the fact that we've been dumped out the FA Cup, if we go and get kicked out the League Cup and there goes any hope of a trophy and we lose against Tottenham, then you start looking at that and you say, yeah, fine, we went 5 games winning, I think it was, after the 2 Everton and United away defeats. Yeah. And that changed the mood again. The mood could flip totally again if it's defeat in the FA Cup, defeat in the Carabao Cup, defeat in the North London Derby, and then we're kind of like not in that 4th spot. That 4th spot is very, very important. And as long as Arsenal are in that, even with other teams having games in hand, fans will be placated to an extent. We need to make sure that we stay there. And if we win the game, then Tottenham are going to be 5 points behind us with 2 games in hand. That feels defendable. That feels
like we can do something. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So massive, massive game. And are we going to stand up and be counted? Are we going to roll over? I'm not afraid of Tottenham. I know
this is it. We're not afraid. There's never been a better time to play them. Like in the last few years, it sounds mad to say, but I haven't really been confident against Spurs. Now, I'm not praising overconfidence or preaching that. I watch them 9 times out of 10 every week because they typically are on Sky Sports. And whether they win, lose, or draw, they make games extremely hard. That midfield, if our midfield is half fit, I need you lot to pocket them. The only real threats they have is on the counter-attack or random little splurges. They play a bit like how we used to play at our worst, where it's just random individual moments of brilliance. You could see Conte is pulling his hair out. Sometimes he can't understand what's going on. The only thing that scares me at Spurs is the crowd, because it seems like we have a problem when we go to nasty places, especially when we have to react to setbacks. I think as shown against United, I think if that United game's played elsewhere, we might just get a point and not concede the penalty. But these sort of things are not a given. And for me, as you said, it sets yourself up, because I honestly believe we're at that point of the season where we shouldn't look at the table per se, because we're going to fluctuate. We're going to come out of fourth, go back in there and stuff. But it's now where we need to really understand, okay, if we lose, this happens. If we win, this happens. If that, we need to beat Spurs, because Spurs have Chelsea and these guys. And if Chelsea can do us a favor, we have half a chance. And I don't know if this young side is cerebral enough to do that, because some of them are just finding inroads in the game, much like the manager. There's a lot of things they don't know sort of thing. Kind of like, it's a bit irrelevant, but kind of how you said Arteta could have dealt with the Nuno example. Maybe a more experienced manager just tells a white lie that he's injured, really. Yeah. So, and I think the Forest game kind of highlighted against Spurs, anytime we play a team that's somewhat street smart, we may be in problems.
Yeah, but look, this game, as I say, huge blockbuster affair. It's going to have wide-ranging consequences in terms of even mentally how that affects the teams going up to the latter part of the season, and then also has implications in the transfer window. So I cannot speak more than that in terms of just how big this game is. And I really hope the players are aware of that and the players are up for that. And due to the size of this game and the really far-reaching implications, I wonder if Granit Xhaka, Emil Smith-Rowe, they're like 90% fit, which would be enough usually to throw them in against Liverpool away, if they kind of just say, look, no, we'll win the game in the second leg. This is the one we need to focus on.
You said something there, you said something. Do you kind of save them? Prevention's better than cure. I do have faith in Xhaka, because whatever people say, this man will put his body on the line for the team. Yeah. With Smith-Rowe, I want to be a bit cuter. If he's not fit, let's just let him chill off. Spurs game, we'll deal with it, because he seems like someone that gets these little niggles. And I always say with Arteta, you lose a battle, don't lose a war. I feel last season, especially with Partey's fitness, he would come back. It felt like, he put his body on the line, but it's a bit naive. We'll bring him in, he sets backs, and we've lost the battle because he's out for the game. We've lost the war because we don't have a player available. So I need to see Arteta be cute.
If someone said to me, DG, look, you lose the first leg against Liverpool by 1 goal, 1-0, 2-1, whatever, but you guarantee a win in the Tottenham game, I'd take that.
Probably. I'm right behind you in that one. The league is the priority, man.
And then I'd say, all right, and let's go and try and overturn that defeat of the first leg in that second leg at home. So I would take that. For me, this game against Tottenham is huge, absolutely huge. And I'm going to be watching that the way I used to watch Arsenal. And what I mean when I say that is
expectation.
That it actually matters as well. I expect them to perform. And if they perform, it actually has meaning. It's not just, oh, do we finish 7th or 8th? This is for that Champions League spot. This is big. We need to do
serious things on the line.
Yeah, it means a lot to me, this game against Tottenham this year.
Speaking of top four, bearing in mind right now we're 4th in January, May comes and we don't finish in the top 4. Where are you at with Mikel Arteta? Is that a sackable offence considering the opportunity you had? Has he maybe shown that he can, if you give him a bit more, he could get goal run better next year? Or is that shown he's someone that could probably come in, be a bit cute, flush people out, but can't take us to that next level?
I think I had heard the term trust the process so much without seeing any signs or any evidence of what to trust in and why to trust the process. This season, Arteta has actually shown me the signs and given me something to put my trust in. And on that basis, given that we finished 8th last year, I looked at the squads this year. It's an absolute travesty. If you're a Man United fan, that with the squad that they have got, that they find themselves below Arsenal, it's a travesty. In addition to that, you chuck in the fact that our captain, our star players, not even playing in our team anymore. It's an absolute travesty that they are below us. So I personally think the top 4 should have been wrapped up. I really feel like it should have been wrapped up. We shouldn't have even had a look in. And actually, even when I look at Tottenham, for example, and Leicester, I thought to myself, they'll give us difficulty. So I thought Arsenal could finish anywhere. Really, I think I was saying for the start of the season between like 8th and 5th almost. And I
think it's that territory personally. 8th and 4th, sorry. I think it's that.
Yeah. I said at the start of the season, if Arteta finishes 6th, gets us back into European, like Europa League places, then that's a little improvement. I'd like a domestic trophy with that as well. If he puts up a proper challenge of 4th place, then I will back him. And I'll say, look, you definitely shouldn't be going at the end of the season if you have secured 4th place, but even if you've really given it a proper go. So what about you? How do
You're
you
like,
feel about him?
I'm like you, man. I mean, I do think as a season goes on, expectations can change and alter and almost the goalpost move. But like you said, start of the season, the expectations were on the floor. I was just screaming subjectively Europe. I speak for myself and maybe some others when I say I can't lie, regardless of where Arsenal are, the minimum should always be challenging for fourth. I'm not going to give you brownie points for that. What I'm seeing right now should be the minimum, innit? That's that. Europa League saves face. You're back in Europe. There's question marks, but it's back in Europe. You fail to do any of that. You fail to finish above eighth, then there needs to be question marks. I did say the one thing I'd let you save you is if I see a system, everything you said about trusting the process. That's where I'm at now. I do think with Arteta, it's on knife edge. I do think there's he does enough to show me something to believe in, or the club showed me enough to believe in. Then there starts being some inconsistencies because it makes me. I think I've changed my mind on last summer several times. At the start, I wasn't against anyone we signed in the summer. They all made sense, but nobody could tell they dramatically made us better unless you was obviously Arteta. And then obviously that changed. You're seeing the building blocks. Now I'm looking at it as a lot of that is true. But then I said it at the start and I say it now. Did we miss a trick not signing two midfielders, not improving improving upon Xhaka, especially with his old going to Roma sort of stuff and whatnot? So for me, I think it's it's a given. You need to keep doing what you're doing. If you could do your sort of Leicester thing, where typically Leicester last 2 years they bottled last game of the season, I think fans won't be happy with that. We don't applaud failure, but we could say, all right, cool, that's the best sort of season we've had for a while. Will you hold your hands up for the FA Cup? That's about it. But we're seeing building blocks and things like that. So that would be it for me. But we need to go there all the way. And it's almost like this is now, it feels like we're in like a halfway house. It's like, okay, we had a terrible start to the season. We're fourth. We have an opportunity to do something in the January transfer market. And where are you at with that as well? Let me throw some names out to you. We've been linked with Telemans. We've been linked with Vlahovic. I'll say them names first. Where are you at with Telemans and Vlahovic? Two positions we need.
Tillemans, I just don't think we'll get him for any like sort of value because of the fact that he's coming from Leicester. They don't need to sell. They will still, maybe not this season. They're sitting in 10th of an awful season, but they will certainly next season be viewing us as rivals in a way for European spots. So I don't think he's a realistic signing personally, unless he forces the move, but he's a one hell of a player. I'd be very, very happy with Tillemans in our team. I think he's a really good player. Then there's also Bruno Guimaraes that we've been linked with as well. So, and then there's Arta from Juve as well. For me, out of the three is Guimaraes that I would like, because I think that gives us, in a way, actually, I'd say if they were all the same money, it would be Tielemans, because I think he's a quality player and he's got that Premier League experience. But I think on balance, being realistic and also leaving some money for further reinforcements, I'd say Guimaraes. In terms of Vlahovic, that would be one hell of a marquee signing. And I feel like if we do that, we don't do anything else. My priority would be a midfielder. But if we do go and get Vlahovic, I'll be, buzzing. I'll be absolutely buzzing, because that's a real statement signing. What that speaks to me as, if we go and get Vlahovic, is that we believe we can get top four, and we believe this sort of move in a January transfer window will secure it for us. So that shows ambition. Yeah. Contrary to what Edu said at the start of the season in terms of where you see Arsenal finishing and he wouldn't give anything, this is a statement of intent. And I don't think you do this if you're 10th trying to get 8th. Do you know what I mean? You do this when it matters.
And I'm agreeing with you, and I think that's when that's one thing I'll give Arsenal, maybe not from a sporting point of view, but when it comes to transfers, like at the start they were saying Vlahovic don't want to sign, and I don't know if he does or don't want to sign, but because of the aggression, it just felt beneath the whole media stuff and those that actually are in the know and whatnot, there has to be some sort of encouragement. Now there's going to be big pressure, as you said. It's difficult to sign someone, let alone thrive in a team mid-January. There's going to be expectations. We're already lacking in terms of goals. We're going to want a lot now. If Arteta wants him, and Arteta, forget goals for a sec, says this is the man for the pressing and the final piece to my puzzle, fair play. For me, I'm with you in the sense of Vlahovic is great, he's amazing, but we're never going to see, in my opinion, our attackers go to that next level, our defense go to that next level until that midfield is properly adjusted. It goes back to the point about Gabriel and Ben White. They're always stepping into midfield to the point where you look at the Premier League for passes, they've played the most passes. You have to go, it's probably Xhaka in midfield, but you have to go a bit down to find a midfielder. Now, I'm sure if at that City, you would see their centre halves as well as their midfield. You probably would see the same with Liverpool. There's not really a correlation. Goals win games, but for me, you need a centre mid, and I don't really understand. Not that I don't understand letting Maitland-Niles go on loan. We've spoken about him, but just the timing of it. You haven't confirmed. We're already down to our bare bones. You haven't confirmed someone in. Why are you going to let him go out to the point where someone you said slow cooking in Charlie, you're having to throw him to the wolves, basically?
I read a little quote about that. I think Arteta was asked about the Maitland-Niles thing. Could you have delayed it? And from what I remember, he spoke about, it was very subtle, but there was one line in there that made me think perhaps Nketiah, where he is, he's if mentally you're in Rome, then you have to go. You can't
go.
Just say, oh, just play one more game for us and then go. How are you going to challenge for the ball? How are you really going to give it your all if you're already thinking about, Do
you question professionalism then? Sorry to cut you then, if that's the case.
No, I think this is quite natural. I think it's not a professional thing to do to sort of like mix the two. It should be a case of you don't dangle it out there for someone and they're already planning getting to Rome and what apartment they're going to stay in and this and that and what flight they're getting on, and then just one last game. I don't think the concentration there, so I think it's quite natural. I'm sure Maitland-Niles, if he was asked to do that, he would have done it to the best of his ability. But I don't think that's the level of preparation that you should be having for games. I think what we would have seen is him being subbed off after 35 minutes as well, a flipping double substitution, if that is the case. So, yeah, I just kind of feel like maybe we should have made it clear right from the outset so that you don't get that confusion in Maitland-Niles' mind that you'll go after this game, and then that way he's focused, and integrated with the team a little bit. But it is what it is. It's funny though, because with him, we could have put him at right back or central midfield, two areas that were kind of lacking, and obviously we've let him go. But all the best for him in Roma. Interestingly though, his first game was against Juventus, if I'm not mistaken.
Didn't have the best of debuts. The whole team struggled really, but
the whole team, where Mourinho said psychological collapse. That's what he accused his team of. Psychological collapse. 3-1 up after 70 minutes at home, and they go and lose 4-3.
And a missed pen.
I hate the fact that Maitland-Niles is part of that, but makes me happy to see Mourinho suffer that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing. And the thing is, for me, I want Maitland-Niles to have the best loan spell he potentially can, secure a move to Roma, maybe convince Arteta you can get a chance. It made me look at the Arteta Maitland-Niles thing a bit differently as well, bro, in a sense of, I don't know where Arteta really sees you, because I don't think he sees you as the second choice right back. For me, it looks like it's Cedric. Obviously Ben White's come in there, but it looks like out of the guys that are just right backs and not centre halves, I think you're not that. In midfield, quite rightly so, I think you could be a squad player. I don't think you're the guy. So it made me think, okay, cool. Something needs to change. How really are we now looking at it? Where are you at with Eddie Nketiah as well? Because I don't understand why he started against Nottingham Forest. I get why, but I think it should have been Lacazette. And it just feels like we're still trying to convince a player who, as much as I like him, I mean, this is Arsenal Football Club. We should never be in this situation. Like, let the man go.
You know what I'm like, DG? When it comes to the Highlanders, I give them opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And Nketiah, I watched him in the youth team. He was clinical. He really looked like a baller to me. I fully expected him to make it. I really did. And I will be very happy repeatedly to talk about how I was wrong, because I had so much belief in him. Same. And even in the past, when he hasn't performed very well, I've come to his defense and I've been slated in comments. People saying to me, like, he's just not asked potential, get over it, that sort of thing. But I thought there's a player in there. And unfortunately now there's been enough opportunities, and it appears as though when I see the flashes to vindicate my prior belief, those flashes are too fair weather. He's not doing it when it really, really matters. Really difficult. So I'm thinking, maybe you've certainly got the ability. You can do what you want to do with your feet and find the corners when you want to find them. But when the tough moments come, are you the man then? And the Premier League is tough. FA Cup, away games against lower league opposition, that is tough when your whole team is playing awful. So are you able to lead that line up top in the tough moments? And I think it's that's come to my conclusion now, where I feel like, maybe that's what's holding him back. Not ability, but it's just that real inner toughness to make it work when it's difficult. So I feel bad saying it, but almost feel like maybe he's not the guy. And then when you talk about Nketiah, you talk about Balogun. He's obviously gone off to Middlesbrough.
Good
and I'm
luck
going to
to
be
him.
watching that with huge interest because Middlesbrough. I'm just going to pull up the league table of the Championship. Yeah,
Going and playing under Chris Wilder. He wanted him at Sheffield, so I hope it works out for him.
yeah. Middlesbrough are 7th in the league. They have got 39 points. That's 1 point off playoff places. Huddersfield are on 40 points. So they're 1 point behind Huddersfield. They've got 1 game in hand over Huddersfield. And the rest of the playoffs, it's a bit of a mixed bag. But the point is, they're on the cusp of that playoff place. Now, when I look at the league table and you look at every single team ahead of Middlesbrough in the league, Middlesbrough have got 29 goals in 25 games. Every other team ahead of them in the league has scored more goals than that. In fact, there's teams further down in the league that have got more goals or as many goals as Middlesbrough. Goals are the problem at Middlesbrough. And when I look at their top scorers, their top scorer has played 20 games, 6 goals. Their next top scorer, 25 games, 4 goals. 21 games, 4 goals. 23 games, 3 goals. 22 games, 3 goals. There's no one there that can be relied upon to go and get goals. Yeah. And Balogun's coming into that team, and I think it starts to provide a context here that hopefully he will get chances. If he can be that guy that plays for Middlesbrough and gets them a few goals, and from now to the end of the season gets into double figures, because they've still got 20-odd games remaining in that league, I think it could do him a brilliant leg up in terms of his development. So I'm really interested in that loan move, and I think it's a perfect sort of loan move to get him playing for a team where there's a lot riding on their end of the season games in a very difficult league where he can make a real difference. So I think we might know by the end of the season, is it Nketiah or is it Balogun that we need to invest in?
This is it for me, and this is it, because for me with Balogun, if he doesn't score the mad amount of goals I want him to, I'm not going to draw conclusions. If he does score the goals, I'm not going to draw conclusions, because the next questions can come in. Can you do it again? Can you do it in the Prem? Can you be relied upon? I feel like, to go back to Eddie, I feel sorry for Eddie, because I'm not saying he's going to be world class or anything, but very few strikers are the finished article at 22, and I do think his body's changing. He's starting to do the general play thing. He's still not all the way there yet, which is a shame. And for us not to have any real length of time on his contract, we can't really do this. If he signs a new deal, fair enough, I'd loan him out, but it doesn't look like that. For Balogun, I'm happy, because in a nasty way, in a nice way, but a nasty way, you're in the real world now. Nobody can, I do think, not saying everyone's told Balogun, but in the school system these days, I think everybody's told how special they are. You either, whether you finish 1st or 8th, everybody's told how good you are. And I do think that a bit of that is at Arsenal. Me and you are victim of that. We'll tell these Haaland guys how great they are because we love them. But when you go to Middlesbrough, they don't give a crap. Akpom, a former Haaland guy, he got a lot of stick there. They just care. Balogun, all right, cool. You scored against these under 23s, that you play for Arsenal, as you said so eloquently, were so close to getting promotion. Can you come and do the business? And if you can do it on Thursday, can you do it on Sunday? If you do it on that Sunday, can you do it on the Tuesday? And that's where I'm happy for Balogun, because you've got to do it thick and fast. You've got to do it consistently. There's a lot of games. I think what we've seen with Balogun, whether it's been against Brentford, whether it's been against Sunderland, his decision making ain't quite there, but also he's a bit naive. Now you're playing against street smart centre halves, people that are fighting to get promoted, stay in the division. There's no substitute for 23's football in comparison to that. So I hope he does his thing out there. I mean, the way Chris Wilder speaks about him gives me confidence, because people are going to say anything when they sign a player, but it seems like he really knows a lot about him. He tried to buy him permanently, so let's see what he can do, man. You only thrive when you're outside your comfort zone, but like you said, you've got a good potential marker. If you could score and show the business, you could affect it, because I think we need 2 forwards. I think in an ideal world you sign this Vlahovic or someone that's like that, and in an ideal world you have somebody like Lacazette who can offer something different and who can be in the squad. Now, who wouldn't want a Haaland to come in? That could save you a lot of money and things like that. My last question for you today would be one that the fans left. They said, what do you think success this season looks like to the Cronkies?
There's no answer to that. Honestly, with the Cronkies, I don't care how good it gets at Arsenal. Yeah, the Cronkies are not the answer. Anything that we do in spite of them. And, it's frustrating me a little bit that no one is talking about the Cronkies anymore because things are going all right for us. You can bet your bottom dollar if we tail away at the end of the season and achieve nothing, people will pipe up about the Cronkies.
The riots will be back, yep.
It's quite simply, a rich guy's son should not be working at Arsenal Football Club. I'm looking at objective decisions like that. Not on a football pitch where Gabriel got caught up in the emotion. This is in the clear light of day. There's no excusing wrong decisions or silly decisions in the clear light of day when you can take time, research, do your due diligence. The way they run this club is not good enough. I want someone who doesn't look at Arsenal as a profit-making entity. When I look at some of the things that they've done historically, Stan Kroenke taking advisory fees that were very vague in description, no sort of itemization about what that actually entails. What advice are you giving us with zero experience of English football? I'm still yet to know.
Just says buzzwords, mate.
That was dividend avoidance, because if you paid dividends, if you receive money out of dividends, you'd also have to pay Usmanov out of dividends. So, you know, that sort of behavior resorts our club to sort of like cowboy level institution.
Facts.
Putting your son in there doing this sort of stuff, it really annoys me. Even if you don't put your own money in there, I want a commitment from you that not a penny will leave our club. So they don't care about the success. Success to them maybe is Champions League for more revenue. That's it.
I hear you, man, and I agree with you. I do think, you know, it's even I guess we're victims of that to a degree. It's like, you know, we're doing all right as a team. Nobody's really, you know, crying about the Kroenkes really and truly, but I feel how you feel. I just wanted to ask a question. Is there a reality where, I don't want to say you can ever forgive the Kroenkes, but forgive the Kroenkes, be on side? Because on one hand, I feel I'm always fighting with myself. I feel the exact same way you do about the Kroenkes. I don't feel there's much they can do to change my mind, but then I feel, am I being a bit unfair? If I've given somebody stick and they're doing what I want them to do, can I get at them? But then I find myself saying, do I really want to praise someone for doing the right things? Like, we were told you want to do things at Arsenal. So can I be surprised that, you know, should I praise you for having a good season, having a good transfer market and all of these things? These are things you shouldn't get praised for, really.
The standards at Arsenal Football Club, even amongst fans, have been eroded so dramatically that what we should be doing is comparing every single second that we're in to what we were before the Kroenkes arrived. You cannot allow for them to change the goalpost, to degrade our expectations so much that when we come up back to our original level, or maybe even slightly lower than our original level, we give them praise for that. I'm sorry, I'm not going to forget where we were before you guys came. People talk about it was Arsene Wenger's second stint that wasn't successful. Actually, all of that coincides with Kroenke's arrival. So if they are simply undoing the damage that they have caused, you're at a net nil. You don't deserve any credit for that. So as far as I'm concerned, what they would need to do is, as I say, the little things. Josh Kroenke needs to come up and say, I'm embarrassed to be doing this role purely because I've got a rich daddy. I'm going to show more respect for this institution and get the best man for the job in. And if you go through that proper process and he ends up being that perfect candidate, which obviously he wouldn't, then fair enough. But go and do things properly. Go and return the money that you've taken out of the club. Go and do things properly, make up for your prior mistakes, and then not only make up for them, then go and do some good. And that's when I'll start saying, okay, perhaps you are fit to own and lead this club. But until then, I'm sorry, I don't care if we're winning the league. And that's why I love the energy that Liverpool fans have got.
Because they've
had brilliant success, Champions League success, Premier League success, yet they're looking at their owners and they're saying it's not good enough and they're not happy with them because they understand the core way of working and their core beliefs, and they're not distracted by shiny trophies and shiny league positions because they know that's very temporary and you want to try and build a dynasty, not sort of
have a legacy, trophy.
And that's what it's about.
So my last question then, just off the back of what you said, do you view Josh Kroenke as different from his dad? Then, like, how do you view Josh in comparison to his dad? Because on one hand, from your last name's Kroenke and you're involved in this club, I paint you all with the same brush. But then I don't think it's necessarily fair to play devil's advocate to kind of call someone out of their sins of their father and things like that, where they might not be like that. So how do you view Josh in comparison to his father?
He's obviously a lot better than his father. His father was disrespectful, showed absolute contempt to the club and to the fans. But to improve on Stan Kroenke, you could have got Boris Johnson in and he would have been an improvement. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned,
hey, you might be a free agent soon as well, to be fair.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, it's just it's not a tough challenge. As far as I'm concerned, is Josh Kroenke coveted by any other club for any position within a football management hierarchy? No. He's
or in any other
only at
walk of life,
Arsenal.
really.
Pardon?
Or in any other walk of life. I'd have to do my due diligence, but I'd love to see what positions he holds. You know, I can't remember who, but someone said he's a quite vocal member of some other sport that his family owns. So I don't know. I get the vibe that just simply put, the Kroenkes just don't have a passion for football. I feel Josh Kroenke feels a bit more emotionally attached to Arsenal, feels a bit more, I don't want to say human, but I feel he feels a bit more human, where Stan, I just don't think he gives a crap, to be honest. It's like, you lot can say what you want. I'm a businessman. I'm on the other side of the world. Like, I don't really care. Like, I'll send my son to deal with the flanks versus you lot. So I don't know. A part of me doesn't really feel we can achieve proper success while these guys own the football club, and they've shown no willingness to sell. I think even Josh Kroenke the other day, he said, we really only owned the team full right for 2 years. Now, are you know, knowing what Arsenal is, are you going to give up on that for 2 years? I don't think they are. So we're kind of at their mercy, really, if I'm honest with you, which it sickens me, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's very, very disappointing. You know, it's hugely frustrating to me that an institution like Arsenal, founded in 1886, has come into the hands of these guys that don't seem to have any real true ambition to return Arsenal to where we all want it to be. But we have to live with it. I'll just never accept them, and I'm never going to be a stupid flipping clapping seal for them when I see us in the Champions League spaces. Remember where we were.
You told us we're meant to do this.
That's my message.
You're right. I mean, you told us we was meant to do this, man. And I think even you've said something great that I wasn't actually remembering. It's that remember where we are. My thing has always been with the Kroenkes. You told us we're meant to do this. So I'm not going to praise you for doing that, really. It's like, you look at Mayweather, it's a poor example, but you know, a lot of people talk about his dynasty and things and how consistent he is. I'm pretty sure if you speak to him, consistency is the minimum. You know, you can't get praised for doing the minimums. And I feel a bit like that with Arsenal. I do feel, whether it's Arteta, whether it's anything, we praise players for the minimums. And, you know, I just don't ultimately feel there's a lot of balance in a lot of things we talk about. Someone said he'll be a clapping seal if we get to the Champions League. I hear it because we've been missing.
No, but I won't. That's the thing. This is exactly what me and DG are saying here.
This is it.
Champions League is not a trophy. It is the stepping stone you need to go and achieve greatness, because you need that financial investment, you know, that Champions League gives you. So Champions League is simply a case of, good, now let's go. That's the starting point. That's not the destination.
This is it. This is it. You're getting on the bus. You know, you haven't pressed the bus stop yet. Facts, man. That's a great example. My last question. Predictions for the Liverpool game. Do you know what? I'm going to be a bit optimistic. I'm going to say 2-1 Arsenal.
I'm going to go for score draw, 1-1, 2-2, something like that. It'll be a draw and we'll clinch it in the second leg.
And the Spurs game, I'm going to say 1-0.
I'm going to go with you.
Yeah, I want that 1-0 to the Arsenal, man. Let's just keep it conservative. What content have you got to come out, man?
So, yeah, it will be the match reactions. I'll be up at Anfield tomorrow. Match reactions against after the Liverpool game. And then my 5 at 5 the day after. Every single Arsenal game at 5 p.m. I release my 5 at 5. 5 things that I noticed, talking points, that sort of thing. You can imagine the one after Nottingham Forest, Tavares was a huge talking point. So things like that come out of the game, that when you're doing your match reaction, I like to get into a bit more detail. And that's why I do my 5 at 5 the next day as well. You have time to think about things. And often things come out of games, not immediately, but a bit further down the line. So, yeah, they're the things that I've got coming up.
Exactly, people. So you know where to find Mo now. When this goes on to YouTube, I mean, just type in Mo Hader on YouTube and subscribe to him, and it's Arsenal Mo 8 on Twitter. When this is on YouTube, you know, you'll simply be able to click the description and just, you know, follow him and subscribe and all those things. He's on 30,000. Let's keep pushing and have a great year, really and truly, man. Now, hopefully the next time I'm on his channel, because I'm going to be doing match reviews and whatnot for these games, it's positivity. Hopefully the next time he's on my channel, where, you know, we're talking about how we've won. But as an Arsenal fan, you never know, man.
Exactly that.
It is what it is, man. But Mo, it's been a pleasure, as it always is, to be able to pick your brains and whatnot. But I'm going to let you and everyone get out of here, man. So, yeah.
Take care, man. Much love. Take care. See you all soon.
No worries, man. Everyone, you know what you need to do. Stay blessed, stay safe. Subscribe to Mo and me on YouTube. Appreciate everyone who's here on Twitch. And we're out, man. God bless. Peace.
Because you always use that active red light defending.
I think it's like